Or at least I don't want to be
Alright,
super
so we're all good?
weirdly
We're all
formal
good?
about it. Just yeah.
Okay, and we're good to go. This is
Nice,
Three Bros
dude.
Podcast, episode 9001.
Oh, 9001. That's right.
That's right.
I
That
remember
is right.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a running joke
What?
now for at least 2 episodes, so that qualifies.
Oh wow. Is that kind of
Uh,
forced? It is.
yeah, it feels forced.
But
Oh yeah, go ahead.
instead of 2, there is 3.
There is 3.
So
All 3 bros present this week. So obviously the
we can
quality is going to
actually.
go up, I would imagine.
Right. That's what I was about to say.
Exponentially, it will be better, right?
Less hammer, more sickle. We'll see how it goes.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know what that means either. Not gonna lie to you.
Right, so
Yeah, anyways. What's good, Mr. Dithis? What are we talking?
Oh, we're talking today. We're definitely saying words. So I was sort of just bullshitting inside of the confines of my own skull today, right? And I was also listening to a debate. It was Christopher Hitchens and William Lane Craig.
What was it about?
It's essentially like, so William Lane Craig is like a Christian apologist, like a debater in defense of the Christian faith, philosophically and otherwise. And Christopher Hitchens was just sort of a famous like free thinker, sort of anti-theist type individual. I don't know if he was anti-theist actually. I think he was just atheist, but that's beside the point. And there was just a certain exchange of dialogue that prompted me to, while I was sitting there in the laundromat waiting for way too long, just listening to this debate and thinking, so there was an exchange, and I can't remember exactly what the exchange was, but they talked about essentially like a private beliefs, right? So there are positions that everybody holds on a certain, like, plenty number of things, and I should just read the little wall of text that I sent actually. So is there any such thing as private personal belief, right? So this is the context. Imagine a person who is Christian and professes that they won't chastise or pass judgment on gay people because that's the job of God. That person expresses that they don't mind gay people existing openly, and they personally have issues with gay people based on the teachings of the Bible, but it's a personal belief, and it's their right to have it. But also imagine that same person voting, if they were to vote on like a referendum considering gay marriage, right? Everybody sort of examines their own belief system when they go to the polls or when they choose who they want to put into office. And a lot of those times it's going to include things like gay marriage. Like, it's interesting because I think the attitude has sort of relaxed these days, especially with some more Christian fundamentalists, where they've adopted a position of, well, we don't really care what gay people do. It's a free society. They can do what they want to do. But personally, my belief is that you're doing something that's morally wrong. You're engaging in something that's morally wrong. And you can defend that as a personal belief, but that can express itself when you vote for people who you're putting into office, right? Like, you can't really claim it to be a personal belief or a private belief anymore if you're trying to engage with politicians who want to press that agenda based on those beliefs that you subscribe to.
Yeah, but then you encounter the question of like, well, shouldn't a person in that society be able to like vote and partake in that society?
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing against their right to vote, that's one thing. I'm just saying you can't really claim it to be a private belief when it's going to express itself like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're not really justified in saying, like, I don't know, and I think it's the same way with this word white privilege gets thrown around a lot, right?
Sure.
And it's like there are people who will not expressively be racist. Like they sort of have their attitudes and their beliefs about people of a different skin color, but it's not like they're super vocal about it, or they're out there trying to like change the community and change who's in it. But then there are other decisions that you make. Like let's say you're a business owner who has those beliefs. You know, that affects the people that you hire for your business. You know, that affects the people that you want to give your business to. Right? You can't really claim that it's a private like belief that you get to subscribe to, because that's going to express itself some way in society.
Yeah, but that's just bias, period. Which always will happen, no matter who we're talking about, you know?
Right.
So look, what I'm trying to say is there's always an inherent bias towards similar people or similar kinds of people, right? And sometimes it manifests itself in an unequal society because the majority will shut out more minority groups in certain ways. You know what I'm saying? Just because they're in power and because choices are made because those biases are in place. But look, that goes across the board though. Like you can replace any group of people in and out all you want. Like that just history shows that whatever the majority is just gonna like be oppressive in ways. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. I mean, you always want to,
and we're trying to deal with that by like have a democracy and like,
I don't know. I guess I was hearing somebody sort of argue against the morality of gay marriage, but they were also trying to argue that is a position that they take privately, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no such thing as a private belief, because you are doing things,
right,
especially in a democracy, you are electing people to make decisions based on the beliefs that you subscribe to, things that you believe to be true and valuable. It's not a private belief anymore.
Let me ask you how many people you think exist like this, where their private belief is that they think that homosexuality is a sin and blah, 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 blah. But actually in public and in the way they vote, they like vote for... No, that doesn't make sense. I feel like there's some people that there's always some people that exist a certain way, but like those people are.
But here's the thing.
There's always
premise.
Hello? You're very quiet.
Hello?
Caleb.
Yeah, I can't hear anything from Caleb at all. Can you, Chad?
I'm not trying to like scream and shit.
Bits and pieces.
Oh, there we go. You're coming in, no doubt. What's good, dude?
Might need to get closer to your.
And he makes the inevitable return to the cast. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So the idea here, though, the initial premise was the fact that you're talking about how somebody votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea in our society is the fact that your vote is in fact kept a secret. So I would say just based on that alone, you have more right to a private opinion than I think what that article was purporting. Because you just went from voting and how somebody votes and affects policy to somebody owning a business. Now, those are two very different situations to me. So I would argue that since we have the right to have a private vote, you can still have that right to a private belief. Whereas if you own a business, it's naturally going to become more public based on what you do with your business.
I suppose I don't mean so literally public and private, but I mean more in the sense that those beliefs will propagate. If you're somebody that doesn't expressively talk about your beliefs, but you vote in favor of those beliefs, that still is an influence on the culture of
let me
things
take
that
it
you
one step
believe
farther
in,
then.
right?
Let me take it one step farther then.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about I don't know, somebody who might have voted for the fact that he got into office. He didn't get into office just solely based on the fact that he purported to be a religious Christian and support, abolishing abortion. Like, that's not why most people voted. So to extrapolate this idea that the only reason why he was voted into office was because he supported making abortions illegal, I think is a stretch. Therefore,
is it? I don't think that's a stretch.
Okay, well, let me go from the other way. right? Well, okay, let me ask you this.
A
Like,
lot of people vote primarily based on like a one position that they have.
right,
Abortion
but not
definitely
everybody
being one
votes
of
based
them.
on the same position, though. You can't sit here and say every single person who voted for Trump supports making abortion illegal. You cannot say that. That just would not be true, right?
It wouldn't be,
You
but
can
a
make
majority of
generalities,
them
but it
would
would
be.
not. You can again,
A
but
majority
you
of
don't
them
know
would
that.
be.
But you don't
Well,
know that.
yeah, I mean, I would bet money that a majority of Trump supporters are anti-abortion.
Okay, that's
My
great.
point is that it has an influence.
But you can't.
All of those people.
I understand that, but having an influence in public policy based on one vote is very different from then saying that you have not a private opinion, because you're generalizing, and I believe that in the generalization of a given category gives you in fact the ability to have a private belief.
Yeah, but I'm speaking more in the sense of people who try and defend themselves when they say like, "Oh, I'm against gay marriage, but that's sort of my opinion, right? Like that's my private opinion." They sort of defend that belief because they know that it's not. I mean, that's not mainstream, especially at this point. But they sort of sort of defend themselves against criticism by saying, "Well, that's just a private belief." My point is that these private beliefs, they don't exist strictly in that sense, right? Because they're going to be echoed in the people that they vote for, right? It's like people who are saying like, oh yeah, I'm sort of unreasonable in this one way, but that's just me, that's my private position on that topic, right? But that's not how this works. And it's not just with voting, it's also with just like how you conduct yourself in this world, right? They're always influencing your daily decisions. Somebody who is, and again, this is the specific example, and obviously that's reflected in the little hypothetical that I typed up, but it was a person who was like, well, privately, well, they didn't say privately, but they said, I wouldn't chastise somebody that was gay. I wouldn't go out and sort of chastise them or try and suppress them because I think that's up to God. Like, that's his judgment to pass. But then when they were asked whether or not they would vote, like, say there was a referendum legalizing gay marriage, they were like, well, obviously, no, I'm going to vote no on that. And I thought that's very hypocritical. Like, you can't claim that little piece of intolerance that you hold on to is a private position when it's going to be sort of expressed in society somehow. That was sort of my point.
I disagree with, or maybe a place, the idea of public.
I sort of can't hear you again.
Caleb's cutting in and out.
Sorry.
My bad. I think where I disagree with you, where I don't know that we're going to come to a consensus, is the fact that we disagree on what the meaning between public versus private is when it comes to an opinion like that. Like, I see what you're saying. By virtue of voting and influencing policy, that is a public, quote-unquote, decision. But when I think of public, I think of very upfront, identifying the exact person who holds that belief.
Right.
So when you're talking about public, you're talking about public policy, whereas when I'm talking about public, I'm talking about, like, you can to an exact person say this is what in fact they believe.
Yeah. No,
So,
I was speaking more.
And this is why I wrote really quickly, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is why I wrote and kind of went in a direction that went a little different right away about like the slippery slope to authoritarianism. And like, is there a difference between someone who wants to enforce a ban on all gay marriage or equally enforce the fact that anyone can marry anyone? Like, is there a difference there? Because obviously the key word being enforce, it's both authoritarianism, but like, is there a difference? And look, in my eyes, honestly, in my eyes, it should just be up to the populace. Like, I understand that's not a popular opinion. I understand that populace can be swayed. And we've talked a lot of times about how, like, like large groups of people might not make the best decisions from time to time. That's putting it mildly. But, a sound society obviously guarantees that the voting is fair and equal, first and foremost. But then after that, as long as it's guaranteed, just has to kind of follow majority opinion or majority vote or whoever's in power. So, I mean, I'm someone that lands in the area of like, hey, like you should just argue your ideas and like, hey, look, if their ideas are racist in this day and age, like you should be able to like win an argument against that.
Yeah.
You should be able to like form something that beats that. That's ridiculous if you don't. So,
So what argument exactly are you making as far as like someone who wants to ban gay marriage as opposed to somebody who wants to let anyone be married to anybody? I guess I'm trying to figure out where that lies. Like what you think the difference is between the two, because it sounds like you're saying both of them are kind of authoritarian.
no, they both are like because they're both enforcing something.
Well,
Now,
so
you're
I
right.
guess-
You're right. You're right. I originally wrote about like a difference between those two things, and I
Right.
think one is obviously regressive and one is inclusive.
So could
Uh,
I argue that allowing, instead of saying you cannot do this, to say as long as you meet this criteria, we don't care? Like, which do you feel is more actual authoritarian? Because to me, I would argue that saying two people cannot be married is very different than saying we don't really give a fuck, a dog. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
A dog.
That,
Well,
but
I
we're
mean,
not talking about
okay, so for
dogs.
me-
I don't understand. We're talking about people.
Yeah, that was.
well, what I'm saying is there a difference between pointing to a specific subset of people and saying you cannot do that, as opposed to saying to all people, we don't really care what you do?
Not
If we
that-
can't at least stay in our lane as far as like we're talking about people and not dogs. Jesus Christ! Like, have we even built a
Well,
society?
So,
Yeah, sure.
so
Go
I
ahead.
guess that's what I'm saying. The question is saying one person be with another.
You're
with
cutting in
no-
and out.
I
a lot
yeah,
there.
you're cutting out, Caleb.
Okay, I'll just listen.
No. You no,
No,
keep
you're
going.
good to
You
talk.
you were
were
in a
just
you were in a
like-
hot direction. You seriously were cutting out.
You probably just pulled away from the mic.
Well,
a
I was
bit.
just. Okay, that might have been. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good.
Good.
So my point though is saying
Yeah.
I feel that there's a difference between saying to a specific subset of people you cannot do that, as opposed to saying to all people like you can be with whoever you want. We don't care.
But what's the difference?
Well, the difference is because you're marginalizing a specific subgroup of people, saying no, you can't do that.
Right.
Like that's
I
more a suppressive authoritarian as opposed to just like
Correct.
the
So we
authoritarian
agree.
is well. There's a difference. There's a key difference there, though, to me.
Right.
And I feel like
okay.
what you're saying is that they're the same. They're both authoritarian, and I'm saying there's a
Oh.
specific difference, in
Yeah.
my opinion, that you're being authoritarian towards a specific subset of people, whereas being authoritarian towards everyone is preferred. So
I
to
definitely-
me, that's what the difference there is.
Being,
I agree.
as long
Look,
as
I
you're
definitely
equal opportunity in your authoritarianism, then we're good.
He's right though. I definitely just to emphasize I guess the point I was trying to make, I definitely equated the two and then but you're right. I mean,
Well,
I went
I
on
wanna
to
make
say I went
sure-
on to say kind of the same thing. I was like, there's a difference, you know. I think I did
Well,
say
I just wanted to
repressive
make sure
inclusive.
that if anybody ever heard this, they wouldn't think that you were equating the two, because I don't think that's what you.
No. Oh please.
I just a chance to do it.
Yeah. I appreciate you.
So,
But
but
no.
that being said, I think
Yeah.
the fundamental key here to Chad's argument is the fact that here in America, because your vote is in fact private, that is the only level of privacy that you can reasonably assume that you have in any sort of a public sphere, as far as a private opinion and a public opinion. That's the key difference. As soon as people have the ability to find out who you've voted for, and especially like why specifically you voted for them, that's when you're 100% correct, Chad. But I feel like right now you're 50-50. You're kind of right, but not
No,
as
but
right
it's
as maybe.
not quite
Mhm.
what I was saying. To be fair, again, you're saying like, I'm not even talking about if we knew who voted for what. That's not. I mean, everybody's vote should always be anonymous. I'm just saying that there are people who would defend less than savory beliefs that they hold, because they're saying, well, that's sort of just like an opinion of mine. But those opinions influence the way that you act and the way that you vote and the way that you are, the way that you engage with people. Like, you can't defend having a belief as something like that you just sort of have privately when it is always going to influence the way that you're acting, right? That's sort of the thing that I was getting at. And I don't know if that's more specific to that specific example I had mentioned with the people who were Christian and the whole gay marriage thing. But it's like, I feel like there are a lot of people who would be comfortable saying like, yeah, I'm racist, but like, I don't know, that's sort of just like my deal. You know what I mean? Like, it's whatever. But that's not how that works, because you're always engaging with the society and the culture around you. And the way you believe things to be is what helps influence the decisions that you make. I don't know. Maybe it was just too specific of a thing when I was thinking it up earlier, or sort of just like bullshitting. But I don't know. It's personal beliefs always have a consequence on your decision making, like day to day, all the time. The things that you believe in.
Right, but I guess what I'm asking is, how does that then equate to it being public? Like, are you saying just because of how
'Cause
you
it
act in
expresses.
public?
It's how it expresses. It expresses itself by the decisions you make.
So how do you
Like, let's
account
say
then
you're
for
a cab
people who-
driver.
Hold on,
Let's
hold
say
on,
you're a
hold on.
cab driver and you're just like, well, yeah, I don't really like black people, but that's sort of just like my deal. But when you're being a cab driver, when you're on duty, that factors into the people that you choose to pick up, right? Like, that expresses itself just through decisions that you make.
Right.
If you have a chance to be picky, what if you
Sure.
don't have a choice? But yeah, if you have a choice.
But let's eliminate if you don't have a choice, right? Let's stick with the fact that you have a choice. Because I feel like this quickly goes into this idea of just having this generalized kind of thing where, black people don't get picked up by cabs in New York City. Right? That becomes a generalized notion that isn't always
No.
necessarily true. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I mean,
So
that
I
was
see what you're
just-
saying. It
that was
definitely
just
impacts
an
your decision
example.
making.
It does.
No,
yeah.
I hear you.
In a million
I
different
hear you, but I want
ways.
to keep driving through that whole process, and that is what is the result of people having that opinion? The result is that a marginalized group continues to be marginalized based on a bunch of people that might be cab, but
Well,
that
let me-
doesn't reflect all cab drivers, and that doesn't reflect
course
all
it
black
doesn't.
people. No, I know that it doesn't.
Well,
I'm
not
merely
black people,
pointing
but
that out,
cab
and I'm
drivers,
saying,
racist cab
how
drivers.
does that then? What?
Surely.
Those damn racist cab drivers.
Those damn racist
Well,
cab
if I'm
drivers.
not mistaken,
But,
in
so
the
let
80s
me
and
bring up
90s, that
another
was legit a
example.
thing.
Oh, for
Okay.
sure.
I'm sure it's still legit to some extent. I wouldn't doubt that at all. But
Okay.
let me bring up another
sure,
example.
it might be.
Let's
What
talk
if
about
someone was
people-
covered? Oh yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What if?
you
What if?
got?
Just real quick. What if someone was covered in a hijab in Boise, Idaho? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, it influences your decisions. That's like somebody who's saying, "Well, I don't like Muslims, but like I just disagree with them ideologically." That factors into your decisions. The example I was going to bring up was flat earthers. A lot of people who are flat earth, and unfortunately I've spent too much time on this, but a lot of people who are flat earth will more or less like they'll sort of challenge their friends a bit, but for the most part, they're like, well, listen, I just, I believe that the earth is flat. I think that there's a conspiracy there. Whatever. That's just my belief. It's like, no, that influences a lot in the way that you behave every single day. That
But like
belief
how?
that
Give me an example. I want you to you're making a general statement, and I want you to keep.
If somebody
going
thought
into
the earth
how
was
does
flat,
that? Yeah, how does that impact?
from
How does
the
that not be a public or be a private opinion?
Well, it just expresses itself in the decisions that you make. Like, I don't know, if you're a
Like?
flat earther, then you're probably going to be more hostile to government workers, for example, right? Because
I don't think that's true.
because
I don't think that's true, but I think you are more hostile to science, Caleb. That's got to be true if you're a flat earther, because you don't respect science at all. Which it's like, hey, round Earth, like not difficult to understand. You have to reject a lot of like science, logic, and understanding there.
Yeah, but isn't this also just the
Written human
natural
history.
like process of ideas occurring? Like,
It's
don't
just-
forget that in the 12th century we thought that the sun or the Earth was the center of the universe, right?
Yeah.
And Galileo came along and said, "Nope, you guys are wrong." And what happened?
Only
to him?
because they didn't understand the science behind it.
Well, I get that, but this is
Right.
just a remanufacturing of that just reoccurring, right? My question is how does that then actually impact? How does that become?
It does.
Right, it-
So if
but-
you're,
but
you're
I'm
saying
asking
if
how.
everybody on Earth if everybody on Earth
Yeah.
right now thought that the Earth was actually the center of the universe, that wouldn't influence us at all in terms of like regular
Sure
day-to-day
would.
life. It gives you a different context from which you're working with the world, right? You're expressing and engaging with the world every single day in a bunch of different ways. And the beliefs that you have, you can't defend them as being just like simply private beliefs, right? Like you don't get to just hide your bad or dumb or intolerant beliefs behind this wall of like, well, I'm allowed to have that opinion because it expresses itself. It's
So
going to
are you
express
saying
itself.
then that okay, but now are you saying then you're not allowed to have that opinion?
No, you are. I feel like you are
Well, hold on,
allowed
but hold
to
on. The
defend
way that
having
you just
opinion.
phrased that-
You're not allowed to
Right, but-
defend having that opinion by just saying it's a personal belief. That's just me. No.
That's
You have to
and that's a
actually
fair
defend
statement.
it then. You
but
don't
that
get
is
to
fact-
just
that
people
is
out,
what
right?
happened.
you don't get to
That's
just
not a bad
shed that
argument.
responsibility.
It's a good argument.
That's what frustrates me. It's like, well,
It's a good argument.
like, all right, I don't really want to defend the dumb things
'Cause
that
I
I
think-
believe in, but that's, because that's just my personal belief. It's like bullshit. There's no such thing as an inconsequential belief in this world. It expresses.
So let me
itself.
ask you this.
Dude,
So
a
let me
real
ask you
life.
this.
Okay,
Hold on.
yeah. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this then. When I teach my kids and tell my kids about Santa Claus,
Mm.
is that a negative impact that I'm having on my children? Because I'm essentially
What?
telling them something
How?
that is not true, right?
Nah, it's all good.
Where I'm comparing this to flat Earth. The Earth is not flat, right? We all can agree on.
These are adults that think this, bro.
I get that, but I'm merely
It's not
posing
kids
an
thinking they're
argument.
getting gifts. Yeah.
Okay,
No,
but how
but
does
you're-
that then
but
impact the
it doesn't-
kid and their decision making?
And that's fine. I'm
I
not saying you
mean-
can't do that. I'm saying you should have to defend it. To be fair, you telling your kid Santa isn't real isn't entirely consequential to my life. But somebody believing in flat Earth might actually have an
Or
impact.
is it?
Who's an adult? The difference is it's an adult.
It's an adult. If you're telling your
Who thinks
adult
this
children that
Like,
Santa
what?
is real,
Yeah, then we got problems, dog. Like
I have
That's
no
a good
problem
point
with you
there.
doing that, right? I have a problem with
so-
people defending
No,
bad
I-
ideas by just saying like, well, that's
you
just sort
imagine?
of my opinion. That's
Yeah,
not
but
a
at the
legitimate.
same
Can you
time,
imagine?
hold on,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
At
Mhm.
the same time, though, right? Let's continue on with that thought process.
Mhm.
Are those people impacting policy in such a way that it is
No, and that's
100%
fair.
regressive?
No,
Like,
You're
I
talking
guess
about
that's where I
policy.
would
I'm not
point
talking
that.
about just policy.
No, I get
talking about
that.
everyday
But what I'm saying, hold on.
decisions.
What I'm saying though, I get that. What I'm saying, are those people of such a large
No,
consequence
they don't have that
it
impact.
is
They don't have
negatively
that.
impacting?
that's just the
society?
internet. That's just the internet.
Sorry, negatively impacting what?
Our society as a whole. Like, are they making a big enough dent to be like, oh fuck, this is a problem?
I mean, I guess it has to be a bit more collectively. So you're talking about like demographics now, but that's not necessarily the conversation that I was trying to. It impacts it. Period.
I
You're
think
saying like as a
right, I
whole. I'm
think
saying
what I
period.
struggle with-
That is, it has an impact.
okay, but now I'm asking,
You're
is
saying
it
in
a
a
negative, a
significant
positive, or
way.
inconsequential?
Yes, in some ways, sure, absolutely.
It depends on what you're talking
on
I
the
about.
hold on, hold on. I
obviously.
just said
Depends on the
3
belief.
things, and you said yes.
Sorry, what did you say?
It either is, it isn't, or it's inconsequential.
It depends on what you're talking about.
It's not
Oh, no.
inconsequential.
So-
of course it's consequential.
so-
Like how
Let me
how many
step
how many
back. Let me
can I bring up an example real quick? I wanted to earlier.
yeah.
Okay, just real quick. How many people who how many people who are religious believe that like we can just use the earth and what resources we have because God has given it to us, and like because of that, like it severely impacts their thinking as far as climate change or anything related to the earth, or even pollution in general, just because they think like, oh, the rapture's coming. Oh,
Yeah.
like God gave us this. Like that seriously is damaging. Now,
Yeah, climate change is a good
that
example.
is but there's a lot of smaller examples that I like. Flat Earth is not a good one to me because like it doesn't actually have any effect. It does not.
That's
It's just
not true.
three
but that's a
retards
different
on the
conversation.
internet.
That's
Okay.
not true.
Then just tell me why it actually has an effect. That's all.
Just by virtue of this community growing, it has an effect. Just that simple.
But
fact
how
alone
fast
means
is it
has been
growing?
consequential. It doesn't matter. It's ideas that propagate, and it's bad ideas. You don't.
Yeah, but all ideas have to be perfect. Like what I'm saying is like we
that's
live in
not
the
what I'm
internet age. Like I
saying.
could
They
just
should
write
be-
online that like
But they should
You know
be
what I'm saying?
defensible by
Like,
something more than just like, oh, that's just something that I believe.
yeah,
in.
but
That's unacceptable.
So
Your
let me
ideas
ask you
have
this.
to
Let's take a
you're
step
always
back.
going to be upset with human beings, and that's fine.
I'm ready to
because-
do that. I'm fully prepared.
I'm
always
ready
be
to do
upset.
that.
I'm
All right,
angry
So
dog.
right now.
let's take a step back, though.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about it from the context of Chad bringing this up and his thought processes, what is the
Yeah.
end result that you're looking for in thinking about this specific topic? Because, like, I feel like we're all driving towards different end results. Because obviously we all have different thought processes. What's
My end
yours
result
specifically?
is that somebody isn't allowed to defend bad beliefs that they have by just saying that's just my opinion. That's
But
my
they
end result.
can,
You
and they
have
do it
to
all the
defend
time.
it.
No, but I get where you're coming from. As someone who wants proof and as someone who wants to challenge and think about things in such a context, you're right. But the reality is, people still do it anyway. So what is the net result? Like, to me, where you're driving, the net result is anybody that says it's just because it's I write off as okay, dumb. You haven't really thought through all of this. You haven't taken the time to really explore what you're talking. Whereas for you, I feel like you're
Yeah.
I don't know what the end result is in going down this path.
What? My end result is that people actually are critical of the beliefs that they hold.
Mhm.
And I'm sick of people defending bad beliefs that they have by just saying that's just my belief. That's not a defense. That's lazinness.
I get
that's
that.
just subscribing to your group thing.
I get that.
That's
I
all
agree
it
with
is.
you. We're on the same page.
Indefensible.
Now the question is, how do you deal with it? What do you do? Like, to me, this
Right.
is the
No,
natural
I mean,
progression
I'm
of the
not.
thought process.
I mean, I'm not out here trying to like legislate that people should have to defend the opinions that they hold. I'm just saying that ideally, in a free enterprise market of people just exchanging ideas, we would hold better expectations of like intolerant. I mean, how many times? And I know all three of us have probably experienced this, where like we meet somebody and they start sharing with us certain beliefs that are just like, why are you telling me these things?
Oh, no doubt.
Just because, you know, maybe you share a same identity or you share a same group or you share a same... And it's like, because you identified me as being one of your own, quote unquote, you sort of feel comfortable to share these ideas. And like, I've never really challenged them. I'm just kind of like hands off because like, bro, I don't even want to fucking touch that. But that shouldn't be the appropriate reaction. We should be challenging people who say bullshit like that because their beliefs have consequences. Just because they felt, you know, comfortable enough to share that private belief with me doesn't mean that that's as far
Yeah,
as that
but-
belief goes. It has consequences on all of the decisions that you make.
Yeah, but I've also never known anybody to have hate in their heart, or not even hate. That's aggressive, but like have any like dislike in their heart and like not have it at least based on something. Now that something can be unfair, no doubt, but it's not like people just like, you know what I'm saying? Just have those beliefs just like because.
You're saying
So,
that
you
they
know,
have
you
some
always have to find
reason
the
for
right
holding
doors to
those
walk.
beliefs?
Right.
How do you
whether
explain
they're right or
racism
not.
then? What would be the
But listen, what did I just say? Whether
justification.
they're right or not. And so my point is, you have to know the right doors to walk through to actually be able to reach someone. You know what I'm saying? Like you just have to have that social intelligence as far as like who this person is,
You're
how
not
they
I'm not
feel,
saying
how can I
antagonize these people.
and right.
That's not what I'm saying.
And by the way, I've never
the ultimate
actually
goal is to
encountered
change
anyone.
ideas.
I've never
Bad
actually
ideas.
encountered anyone who was like publicly, outwardly racist. I've
I
never
definitely
encountered
have.
that. Oh, you have? Oh, wow.
Publicly. Or I've
Zero
had somebody.
what?
Yeah,
I've had somebody confide in me.
Have
or
I?
sort of like made more side comments.
Yo.
No. I'm talking about like out in public. Do you know what I'm saying? Where like they're just
But
like.
that's not what I'm talking about.
I would say our neighbor was pretty out in public.
Yeah.
Gary.
Yeah.
First names are fine.
For sure. But
I was just gonna call him G Money.
G Money. That's also.
but like it was
well,
never
that was his
public.
real name.
It wasn't like
now you just
it wasn't like we're all out like you know what I'm saying like at church and like dudes dropping N
No,
words.
but that's not
No.
my point. My point is
No.
like that is actually my point.
I
is
understand
that
that.
somebody wouldn't
I know that's your point.
expressively talk about those things, but the
I understand
decisions
that's
that
your
they
point.
make are a form of that expression.
And I do understand that point, and I get it. You're right. I still think that unless, and it sounds like you're more willing to admit that it. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you're willing to admit that some people are just lost and they can't be won. Is that correct?
No, I'm just saying they shouldn't
Oh,
they shouldn't be allowed to sufficiently.
so my point is, you
defend-
just have to approach it the right way. You just have to like,
no,
you know what I'm
obviously.
saying? Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm not talking about being a dick or
Yeah.
confrontational.
Right.
I'm just saying that people who use that line of, well, that's just my personal belief, shouldn't be allowed to use that line as
Wow.
a defense for bad ideas. You don't get to do that because it's not inconsequential. It's like, well, I have a right to my private opinions. It's like, well, your private opinions express themselves still.
All I'm gonna say is I feel like that's a personal judgment from you, and that's fine.
A personal
Because they also have
judgment.
Like it sounds like you're just like judging them for saying that, because like they still can,
Yeah, because that's not a defense.
and like
of
you
bad
can judge them as
ideas.
well. No, I understand that.
Yeah, of course I'm judging them. It's not
Right.
a defense of. If you want to defend the ideas and the opinions
not a
you
good
hold,
defense.
then do it. But
Correct.
if you're just saying, well, I just have the right to hold those opinions, that's
Right.
not a legitimate argument. I don't accept that. That's lazy.
Yeah.
So
They do have the right though.
so I agree with you on that, but
Of course
again,
they do. I'm
right,
just gonna chastise
think-
you for it. I say I don't accept that excuse. Go fuck yourself.
All right,
Defend
yeah,
the
but
things
you're not
you're
saying that to people.
Yeah,
No,
you're not.
obviously
I'm
you
calling
gotta
you
be-
out right now.
Obviously, you got to be a bit more nuanced.
Now, if they're
about it.
if they like if someone was like to you like I hate N word and N word this, then I'm sure all of us would be like, yo, that's not cool. I would say that's not cool. But like nobody that I know close, like nobody even I've even heard is like that. Like Caleb's talking about our neighbor. I think he's right. I was so young, like I don't remember that much. I really don't.
Really?
Clearly, Caleb.
Talk
Oh,
to
Chad
Gary.
remembers too. Jesus
Wow.
Didn't
Christ.
talk to Gary enough.
I don't.
Can I
You
can I share a
didn't,
little
Cyril.
can I share a little anecdote?
I just didn't ever wasn't around him. Yeah, go ahead.
So
Oh,
I
let's
was,
do it.
I was over. They were an older couple.
Call him G-Man. Go ahead.
G-Man. I was over at G-Man's house. They were a lovely older couple who needed some help moving a table.
Yeah.
Or we're moving some furniture or something. I don't know. So we're taking a break. G-Man goes to his wife and he says, "Get us some water." And we sit down at the table. She scampers over and she gets us some water. Which, you know, if anything, should give you a little bit of context of what kind of guy this man was.
Not
but
that big a
anyways,
deal so far. Go ahead.
Well, so initially he goes woman, and he does it like half jokingly, but it's like half not jokingly. Regardless. So we're sitting there and we're talking, and I don't know how the conversation comes up, but he goes, "Listen, if your sister brought home a black man, would you be okay with that?" And I was like, well, yeah. So if I got to know the guy and if he was like good for my sister and a good guy, I'd be fine with that. And he pauses for a moment. He looks at his wife. He looks back at me and he goes, "Is that what they're teaching you in school these days?" And I was like,
no, dude, that's so
my
uncomfortable.
God. I didn't know what to
So-
say. I had
so
no idea what
You
to
guys
say
were
to them.
paused getting a drink
Just drinking
while
water.
moving stuff.
Yep. This came up somehow.
Oh wow.
He says, "Is that what they're
You know what I
teaching
would've
you in
said?
school these days?" I said, "Wow." What would you have said?
Dude, this
I
is
would've
like
been like,
20.
what would
You
you
know.
have
I would have been like, what do you think your wife's brother said when she brought home a white man?
Right, exactly. Because his wife was full Native American. That was the most ironic part about
Like,
the G-Man.
No bullshit,
She's
real
like
Native
full,
American.
straight from the reservation. I mean, he was a bizarre man. He was very lovely to us, but of course, because we were
'Cause
white
you're
as
white.
sin. Yeah.
As we
and
found out from my
the
DNA
rents were
test.
handicapped, and the rents were handicapped. I think also.
Oh,
He
you
did
think
not
that's
like
why
us
he?
at first, though,
No, you
No.
didn't.
because I was a little shithead kid
Yeah, you were with your wearing all black and
with my paintball.
your paintball. That's right. Oh my
I
god.
got to do a
All right, anybody
full-fledged
have,
shouting match with him.
Anybody have any last recorded words?
Yeah, I think that this was a good talk. It's
Defend your
stirred a lot of
beliefs.
debate.
Don't be a dickhead.
Oh, for
Those are my
sure.
final
Nobody's
words.
gonna ever
Sorry, go
listen
ahead,
to
Caleb.
this.
No. But I think
I
what's
just appreciate downloading my bullshit. Chad, go get that ball. Nobody's getting the ball, Chad.
You just started like setting us up for the end of the stream. I got to tab out so I can end the stream. You understand?
Oh yeah, we're up 1-0. So go ahead.
Go ahead and end it. That's what we're ending it on.
No, I think ultimately what
Go
we
ahead,
need
Caleb.
to do is we need to start looking at some of these maybe in a longer podcast form. So like we talked about it now. I wonder what would happen. I'm
Wow.
not suggesting we do this next week, but we continue to have the conversation as we all dwell on this. Is something I would challenge.
About this, about like our opinions on this specific topic.
Yeah, continue to develop your thought processes around it, behind it,
Yeah,
above
that's
it,
fine.
below it, the whole nine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, okay.
I only say that because what we're really good at is just taking a real surface view at something. And what I would like to start doing with this is say, okay, so you've identified something that you don't like, Chad. How then do you deal with it? Like, what can we do as
Shoot him
people,
in
as
the
a
head.
society, as groups? Hey, that might be one option. I don't
Between
know.
the
I would say it's pretty
eyes.
tyrannical, but
Just
Yeah.
above the eyebrow.
Listen, just let us know what's good. Let us know what you want us
you
to
wanna
like.
talk about
if it's
authoritarian.
this-
Chad.
If it's this and you want to sit on this next week, just
Right.
what Chad did was fine. Chuck in some questions. Honestly, dude, this is just whatever the fuck we want it to be. If you have an
No, I
article you
know,
want to
and
talk
that's why-
about, that's fine. If you want
Well,
to do a
that's why
little
I'm
bit of
saying,
long
like, I
form
think it
for
would
a
be-
few weeks, let's do it.
Yeah, I would
it
say-
be interesting to
What to
develop
say.
an idea a bit more deeper than we typically do. It'd be fun.
Sure. And look, I think that we could do that, and then like, if I could catch either one of you or both of you on another night to do a couple, it's whatever we want it to be, you know. Absolutely.
Hey, real quick,
Just,
Buffalo Bills 9-7, gonna miss the playoffs.
7 and 9. But hey,
Circle
just
the bandwagons.
for real, like if you have
6 and
if you have an
10.
idea, if you have an idea on something like that, like just
Get
shoot it
the
in the Discord.
fuck out.
Go ahead, Cyril, please.
This is real. Yeah, this is real talk. Just shoot it in the Discord and be like, hey, for this week, same topic as last week, but like these are questions I've been thinking about or how to approach it. Just let us know. All you gotta do is let me know 24 hours. Oh, I'll write some shit on it. No big deal. So
There
just
you
let me
go.
know.
This has been the Three Bros. And remember.
Oh,
don't
we're
be a
still
dickhead.
recording. Jesus Christ, through all that.